So I guess some would say, well, it looks like to them perhaps that I've spent the last 6 years of my life chasing money. To me, I've spent the last 6 years of my life building and in the process of that failing and in the process of that learning from my failures and then using that to optimize and fine tune. And in this whole process, yes, I guess I've made a lot of money also, quite a few million to show for it at this point. My point with saying that is I don't feel like I've spent the last 6 years on chasing money. I feel like I've spent the last 6 years, again, trying to build, failing, falling, and learning from that, getting up, fine tuning, and bettering myself. And that begs the whole question. I think that might be the best way to start the conversation about money. Is it even worth the effort? I feel like there's a lot of people, perhaps at my age, also older, and of course younger. I'm 23 currently, that are at a stage in their life where they might be trying to figure out what should they prioritize. Should you prioritize getting good grades in high school or getting into a good university and getting good grades there and then securing a nice career? Or should you go the entrepreneurial route and take the risk and start your own thing? Well, perhaps I can give you a little bit of perspective that might aid your decision making process. Personally, I never even finished high school. Um, I went to four different high schools, I believe, and I spent more than 3 years on doing that. But I never finished because it just wasn't for me. And so I kept bouncing back and forth between different high schools, all while building. Oh, what's that? A little mosquito. All while building my business, my first online business, which was my social media marketing agency. And well, actually, a few weeks into building that, I was able to sustain myself quite well. And then a few months later, I was able to drop out of high school and sort of get my own place and be completely independent as a result of that. But since then, not having finished high school, not even having attended university, um, I feel like I'm at a very, very fortunate place in my life. And I'm also at a place in my life where a surprising amount of people, I guess, look up to me, or when I'm in conversations in public or I meet people for the first time and they ask what I do and I explain them, and then they slowly start to figure out my results and my position. Well, they get very impressed. And so just looking back at 15, 16, 17-year-old me who was super worried about not going to university and what would that mean in social context, what would people think about me if I didn't go the traditional education route. Well, I'm happy to say it's worked out pretty nicely, and people actually, yeah, I feel like I get treated very well in public spaces. In the sense, you could just be you're meeting the family of your girlfriend, or you're meeting somebody for the first time, like whoever it might be. There's always that moment of assessment, and things have worked out pretty well for me. Now, coming back to this question of money, is it worth the effort? So I guess to answer that question, we must assess the benefits of chasing money or attaining success, and maybe some of the challenges that comes with it as well. So obviously the most obvious benefit or perk, I should say, about actually getting some traction with your entrepreneurial venture or your business. Honestly, this even goes for if you're working like a corporate career, but it's taking all of your time. Well, the main benefit of making substantial amount of money is that it gives freedom for your mind to unfold itself in any way it wants. And so I'll probably retract my statement, because this doesn't go for high earners in corporate careers, because well, you're tied to that desk, you're tied to that screen, doing that one thing that your boss tells you to do, and so that's not a lot of freedom for the mind. It's not, at least not the same freedom that making money from doing your own thing allows, because you build it, right? You fail, you get some experience, then you optimize, and then you make more money, and then your mind is really free to optimize that direction in any way that it wants, and start a new project if that's what your brain wants to do. And so that freedom of mind is probably the biggest perk to having money, in my opinion. Now let's talk about perhaps some of the challenges of the chase or working hard. And I should say, like, I work anywhere between 8 to 12 hours a day in front of the screen. Sometimes in very busy periods, I'll crank out 14, 16-hour work days. I'm currently building like 4 different businesses. It's a lot of work. And so I suppose the most obvious challenge would be I have almost no social life. And that's not entirely true because I have my girlfriend, who I consider my life partner. And I'm very, very grateful to be with her. We live together and we've been living together for almost 2 years now since we met each other. And well, I couldn't work as much or do what I do now or have started all the businesses that I'm currently working on if it wasn't for this relationship. Because before I met her, I think I was limiting my capacity to work and to start new projects because I also wanted to balance having a bit more of a social life. But since I met her, I think we're all we really need for each other. And so we don't see a lot of friends. Now, that might be because we're introverted. It could also just because we have busy lives. And I think it's a combination of the two. I mean, I've always been pretty comfortable by myself, but in the early years of starting my businesses, I was more social than I am now, that's for sure. And so I think it's more to do with the latter argument, which was that we're living busy lives. And on top of that, I would say the more mature we become and the more busy we become and the more results we've attained, well, the more our outlook on social interactions and social relationships changes. You know what the old saying, which goes, oh, he made it. Now he's rich and now he's not with his day ones anymore. The money changed him. He doesn't want to be with his original friends from childhood. Blah blah. Like this whole thing. So firstly, I would say, the friends I speak to the most over the phone, like I don't live in my childhood country. I haven't for many years now, but mostly the friends I speak to on the phone are my friends from childhood. That being said, mostly the friends that I see, which is like very rare. You'd probably be surprised. Like I maybe see a friend once a month, maybe. Sometimes it goes 2 months without seeing any friends. But when I do, in the last year or two, it's become my best friends that I like to see and spend time with in real life or take a vacation with, like my girlfriend and I did with my friend and his girlfriend earlier this year. It seems to be people that are on the same journey as us. So, he's busy. He's building businesses. He has a similar schedule to me and a mind that works in a similar way to me. And so, when you've made like $600,000+ in a single month, when you've made like close to 10 million at my age, there are conversations that are difficult to have with your old friends who aren't at the same level of ambition as you are. And so I think this whole limited social life as a result of building businesses is also sort of a blessing in disguise, because it also eliminates a lot of the less meaningful social interactions that we have on a daily basis, right? I remember how it was before, and I know how it is for most people and most old friends. Like they're seeing friends every day and having the same conversations over and over again, and 90% of the conversations bring nothing novel to the table, right? And those are the kind of interactions that I'm thankful to say I have a very limited amount of in my life, because I just don't find them interesting. And so I say it's a blessing in disguise because I'm so busy, and because the new friends that I'm making that are at the same level of me or the same mindset as me, same level of ambition as me, they also value their time and the time they spend socializing as much as me. And so that means that we're actually having very, very valuable conversations, and we're having conversations on subjects that I just couldn't talk about with my old friends who haven't reached that same level or aren't as ambitious. Because again, coming back to this whole, I haven't spent 6 years chasing money. That's not what I look at the last 6 years as. For me, the last 6 years, again, is learning something and trying to build something with that, and then failing as a result, and then learning from that failure, and then optimizing and taking that data and stacking that on top of each other. And that's what we call experience. And you mix your knowledge with your experience, and that becomes expertise. And so I haven't spent 6 years chasing money. I've spent 6 years gaining expertise, building experience. And the new friends I'm making as a result of my results and of my work, well, they're at a similar level. And so it's not that I can't have the conversations with those old people because I have more money than them. It's not that. It's not that they can't relate because we're at different levels of wealth. Not at all. It's that The conversation isn't relatable because they haven't been through as much trial and error as me. They haven't gained as much experience. And oof, I hear myself just as I'm saying that. It could sound very arrogant, like they haven't been through as much as me. They haven't gained the same amount of experience. I'm more mature. I'm at a higher level. Look, like success and results is an ambition and intellect and skills. All of these things are very relevant in your attractiveness in any social relationship. We're not just talking about girlfriends or life partners here. We're also talking about friendships. And if you don't like that, well, then I think you need to wake up a little bit. Like, let's just relate it to something that sounds less stigmatized. Someone who's a grandmaster at chess probably doesn't find a lot of joy in playing chess with somebody who's playing for the first time, or a beginner, or somebody who's mediocre for that matter. Same thing goes for video games. If you spend 10 years becoming good at a video game, you're probably not going to enjoy playing against somebody who's playing for the first time, unless you're into some weird thing. Let's see what else. I mean, if you're a philosopher and you spend the last decade reading books on philosophy and developing and writing, like you're developing your philosophy and writing down your philosophies, you'd probably seek to have philosophical conversations with somebody who has been through a similar journey. In other words, somebody who's at the same level. And so with all those examples, the same would go for a tennis player, a football player, anything. With all those examples, it doesn't sound stigmatized or rude at all, right? Of course, a pro-level tennis player wants to play with another pro-level tennis player. Grandmaster at chess wants to play against other grandmasters at chess. But as soon as we get into the realm of business, which naturally entails success and, as a result, money, it seems like, oh, that becomes a stigmatized area. Oh, you're like, just because you've made all this money now, you don't want to see people who haven't? No, that's not it. Again, I talk to my old friends on the phone all the time, but just like the philosopher would like to speak with somebody who's developed their philosophy and who has a similar level of intellectual capacity or knowledge or whatever within philosophy, the same goes for entrepreneurs, right? It's gradually you find it more and more interesting to speak to somebody who's been through the same amount of trial, tribulation, testing, failing, optimizing, succeeding as yourself. And so this is a huge rant and it's raw. It's all from the top of my head. I just wanted to sit down and have this conversation because, again, the main question here is money. Is it worth the effort? And I think if that's the question on your mind, or if you're evaluating what direction to go in, or whether to prioritize spending more time on socializing with your old friends, or whether to spend more time on sitting and grinding behind the screen, I think you need to rephrase the question. It's not so much money, is it worth the effort? Because to that answer, I'll say no. If I had spent the last 6 years chasing money and I had nothing to show for it except for money, then I would have told you no, it's not worth the effort. I wish I'd spent that time socializing. But the reason I will tell you that I'm very happy about the way I've spent the last 6 years and the fact that I've minimized or limited my social life a lot is because I haven't spent them chasing money. I've spent them building myself up to a higher level of experience and expertise. And so, again, we need to rephrase the question. It's not money, is it worth the effort? It's more like excellence, is it worth the effort? Or leveling up, is it worth the effort? Pursuing greatness, is it worth the effort? To somebody who doesn't do any of those things, what I just said might, again, come across as arrogant. And I don't really see that as my problem. But if you're at that stage of your life where you're at a crossroads, do you go traditional education, pursue a career? Do you take the chance, try and start a business? From my perspective, I've always said this thing when I've been asked this question, like, wasn't it scary? Well, for me, sure, it was scary, but I always knew that I'd rather live in the back of a van while trying to build my online business, even if that meant it taking 5-10 years living in a van. I'd rather do that than go the traditional career route. Not because there's anything wrong with the traditional career route, it's just not for me. And so the whole money, is it worth the effort? Or excellence, greatness, is it worth the effort? And by the way, obviously there's many ways of achieving excellence and greatness. It doesn't come down to money making. You can be great at sports or at philosophy or at science. You can be great at anything. But greatness usually entails that For example, limited social interaction. Not in all fields, but the pursuit of becoming truly great at something usually entails that, right? And so I think that's the question you need to ask yourself. Is it like, do you want to be great or excellent? Because then, yes, I'll tell you, it's worth the effort. The pursuit is worth the effort. It's really fun. Like, you guys can't imagine. Every day, I sit here and I do my journaling in the morning, and then I do my meditation. And again, that sounds stereotypical. Oh, he's an entrepreneur, online entrepreneur. He does his journaling and his meditation. Look, it just works, okay? And I'm writing down what's on my mind. And as I'm doing that, I can't stop smiling because, like, I'm just so thankful for the opportunity to live this life, to play this game called life, to do my best. I'm thankful for the opportunities that come my way, but I'm also equally thankful for the challenges that come my way. I embrace them with the same regard, care, and attention. And I think that might be the most valuable takeaway you could take from this video is I think adopting that mindset has been one of the most rewarding things for me in my life, is saying, like, look, whether you're religious or an atheist, whether you believe in God or the universe or you're more spiritual, doesn't matter who you thank. Just thank the universe for the opportunities it sends your way, and say to the universe that you're equally grateful for the challenges that it sends your way, because you'll regard each challenge as an opportunity to improve yourself, to fail and optimize. So yeah, I had a few notes here. I just wanted to see if I missed anything important that I really wanted to get across to you. I think one thing that might be worth adding is I don't see the rest of my life as being very limited socially. I just see it as I'm in my 20s right now. Maybe all my 20s will be limited socially, and then my 30s and 40s will be more social, because, well, businesses, when you succeed with business and you've built multiple of them, well, that gives you leverage. And so that almost allows you to regard the game of business or life as a game of chess. Because here in my 20s, I'm in the weeds, in the, what they call it, trenches, just building my things, grinding in front of my screen. But after that, I'll be playing chess with the pieces, and I'll have made 100 valuable connections and friends throughout my pursuit, people that are on the same journey as me, at similar levels to me. So I'm sure we can all sit back, whether that be on a beautiful boat or in a summer house or in the Alps or wherever we might be, and have interesting conversations and be proud of what we've achieved and use the leverage, the chessboards we've created to create more pieces to scale. And well, look, I was like an elite tennis player as a kid. I was also very good at snowboarding at a young age. And back then my dream was to become a pro tennis player, a pro snowboarder. And I think growing up and spending all these years building my businesses, I've just realized how thankful I am for the route that life has taken me on. Because sure, it would be great to be the world's greatest tennis player, but I also think I would find that pursuit rather limiting. I'm sure it would be fun to get to play tennis every day. Maybe you'd also get a little bit tired of it because it becomes a job and not something for fun, but it's rather limiting, I'd say. And as an entrepreneur, as somebody who's autodidact, who just does whatever he wants, builds the business he wants, I cannot imagine a life of more freedom than this, honestly. We're building a software, we're building an app, we're building online education. And then I was like, well, I also want to start a clothing brand. And so I'm building all these businesses at once and just having fun with it. I've said this before, I used to play so many video games as a kid, and that's kind of how it feels now. Just wake up, do my morning routine, sit in front of the screen and play the video game called Business and Life until I shut down my computer, go for a walk, spend some time with my girlfriend, then go to bed and wake up and play it again. And yeah, I'm sure maybe it would be sad if I did that for the rest of my life until I died and never had a lot of social interactions for the rest of my life. But again, I don't see it that way. This is right now. This is a phase, and I think it's so worth it. It comes back to that stereotypical saying of like, uh, some people will say it's better to enjoy your youth and then work when you're old, and some people will say it's better to enjoy when you're old and work in your youth. And I believe the latter statement, which is it's better to enjoy when you're old and work hard in your youth, because there's a huge misconception in that saying, which is enjoy when you're old, work hard when you're young, as if almost it implies that working hard isn't enjoyable. But again, when you adopt that mindset of receiving any opportunity and any challenge in the same way, when you regard everything as an opportunity to level up, when you regard it as a game that you can play and level up at, then that working hard process becomes enjoyable. And I'd much rather do that while I'm young and have the energy than wasting my youth away partying and then being in poor health at 35 or 45 or 50 for that matter, and then trying to catch up with lower energy and diminishing health. Seems like a nightmare to me. If you're in that situation, I wish you good luck, and I still believe you can do it. I'm just saying there's a way I'd prefer to do it, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity to do it that way. So yeah, is there anything else important here that I missed? No, I think that's it. It's been a while since I did a raw video like this. Hope you enjoyed it. Ciao.